we're recording.
Okay.
So why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Hi guys, my name's Felicity Joyce. I am a triathlete and a triathlon coach here in the Bay Area. I work with Kyla, and we're going to talk to you a little bit today on a few things. First of all, a little bit of background on me. I've been in competitive sports since I was 12. I think I fought my sister for the Australian Taekwondo Championships when I was 12.
Cool,
and she
I
beat
didn't
me.
know
So
that.
it kind of lit a fire to why I've done competitive sports my whole life, maybe. Okay, and then I went on to play team sports all through school, represented Australia for a few of those. And then, so mostly team sports through school. And then I went on and ran with the Olympic torch in 2000 to represent the youth of Australia, which was great. And then in my early 20s, I got into ultra running. And at 23, I became the youngest Australian ultra runner champion for the 24-hour track championship. So yeah, that's a race. That's a thing. So that was over 120 miles, I think, just there. And then I went on to race marathons like the Comrades Marathon in South Africa, and studied exercise science and business at Sydney University. And then I went ultra running for quite a while. Then I moved here to the USA and took up triathlon because everyone here does triathlon, it seems, in the Bay Area. And I just connected with great people, and that kind of drove me towards triathlon. And it always been a goal to get into triathlon, and so it was a perfect fit. And then it just went from there straight into triathlons. Won my first Ironman, went to Kona, several 70.3 world championships, then got into coaching it as well. And last year some cycling, we did 2 world championships the last 2 years, and they went well. We got the world champion for those 2 and a world record there. So that was great. And so, things have just progressed through different sports. Obviously, there's been some different injuries and different challenges along the way, which have guided the change in sports, but we've always been amongst it. And so that's pretty much my background in the sporting arena.
Awesome. Yeah. So Flick and I, we've connected a couple years ago at least now. And so we've kind of been working together on and off. And do you want to tell them a little bit about kind of why you reached out initially?
Yeah, sure. So I guess being a competitive sports person can be a good thing and a bad thing. I mean, we're very driven. And so I think I struggled a little bit at the end of high school when I was captain of a lot of competitive sports teams, just to make my best better, right? I was always trying to strive to be better. And so I got into a little bit of trouble on the nutrition side of things. And we actually went a little south after my competitive team sports stint there. And so I got in trouble with that and ended up with like a pretty bad eating disorder, and we got into a lot of trouble with that. And then I brought myself out of that, and then we got into ultra running. And then it came back a bit as soon as we start to get at that competitive level. I think trying to get that extra edge, it always kind of creeps back in. So with the new like direction with triathlon, things have been great, and I just didn't want to go back to that that side of things, given that we were starting to get very competitive, starting to get a lot of results. And so for me, that's always like a touchy situation, and that's kind of the turning point when things get the pressure gets high to perform well.
Right.
Things start to creep back in. And so it's taken a while to find someone I trust, so thank you. But it was really important for me to do this, to keep performing at a high level and take that high level further in these last few years, and not go backwards. So I think that's why I reached out to Kyla. And I think it's super important, if you struggle with this, to have someone you trust and to go forward and to help you, guide you through this. So you don't go back the other way.
Yeah. And just for the viewers, Flick has been very open about it, and is also very open towards specifically like youth as well, and wanting to help in that area as well, which I think is amazing. And so kind of with the nutrition component, like when we kind of started to adjust that, what do you think was the biggest thing when we started working together that you were like, what the heck, I got to do that?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was like, whoa, she wants me to eat that much and those things. And I'm like, it kind of defeats my goal. Because I mean, the main focus was Spain. And in my head, it was like I had to lean down because it's very, hilly course, so the power to weight ratio. And then just trusting that you were doing the right thing there. And it was just actually changing how much and what I was eating. I mean, the amount of carbs I had to put back into my diet and whatever, but in turn it still achieved our goal, which was a great learning and trust point for me. So it was the first time I actually really trusted it, and it works. So now in my head it's a lot better.
Awesome.
And and yeah, I think it was mostly the change in carbs, amount of carbs, and naturally for athletes, and the amount of food. So I think that was a hard thing, and from my background, and I think with anyone with a background like that, that's a hard adjustment. But once you start to see the results, it's a lot easier to handle.
Yeah. And I think like one of the things too, like we talked about, was you loved vegetables, which is great, right? It's so good to have an athlete that is like so open to eating tons and tons of vegetables. But I think one of the things we run into is like veggies are fantastic, right? But then they also take up a lot of room in the stomach. And when we're doing some of these like super big, 6-hour, 100-mile rides, and we need to kind of make sure we replenish and refuel from that, it's hard to get all that suggested intake in if our stomach is being expanded and stretched from a lot of veggies. So I think that was probably a change too, right?
Yeah, no, definitely. And I think that's originally like no one plans to go south, right? Like it's always an intention to get better. But I think if you don't have someone helping you, what's deemed healthy can sometimes get misled as an athlete. Right? So definitely, I think that's how I first got in trouble. I just wanted to be better, so I'm going to eat healthier, and then healthier became healthier. But was that really healthy for an athlete?
Right.
Probably not, right? So I didn't have my period for like 10 years.
Right.
But I ate very clean. I ate healthy, but in turn it mucked me up quite a bit. Just with the intensity and the volume of my training. Healthy, isn't always what you think it is for an athlete, I think. And there's a lot to do with what's out there and whatnot. So I think, just taking that to different levels actually got me in trouble of what I thought was healthy. Being a driven person, it's like, I'm going to be healthier. And so all of a sudden you're on this rabbit food diet and you're an athlete. And I think that, causes a lot of trouble down the track. So.
Yeah. And I think that is something that I think is pretty common that I do see as well, is that there's, we have to differentiate between the research that supports kind of general health nutrition and the research that supports nutrition, fueling an athlete. And we know that with endurance sports, and also any sports really that have high intensity or bursts of intensity, that your body is metabolically trying to go glycolytic, and the glycolytic system relies on carbohydrates for fuel. So if we don't have those stocked up in our system, it's going to be really hard for us to do those or hit those high intensities, and also replenish from the sport itself, and basically replenish all that muscle glycogen or carbohydrates stored within the muscle that we utilize. So then the recovery and physiological adaptations piece isn't being completed either. And so we might not be seeing improvements in the sport. So that's a tricky balance, because we want to be on the day-to-day healthy, but also supporting our sport, which kind of sometimes can be backwards when we're talking about like bagels and English muffins, right? And most people are like, no,
right.
But it's a different world. And
Yeah.
especially so with fueling during too, right? So
Hmm.
I know you have your go-tos for your fuel sources during. Um,
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
can
So
dive into that.
probably could do a better job on that still. So there might be some areas of opportunity there. But but outside as well. I mean, I think outside, we're always thinking about during the training what we're doing, but also changing the outside of that as well is just helping all the health parts as well, like what we talked about, like the menstrual cycle
Mm-hmm.
and sleep and stress
Yeah.
and whatnot, and the recovery. So I
Yeah.
think both in and out has been huge and is huge. And I think until you really trust it and give it a shot,
Mm-hmm.
you're always going to battle with it. But once you, I think the getting over the hurdle of trusting it and giving it a shot and seeing that it works. It's the same
Yeah.
with training. A lot of people, as a coach, I see a lot of people have a hard time of doing the easy, right? And so
Mm-hmm.
they're always in this gray area, and then they have a performance where they've really trusted the training and done the zone 2 work and the aerobic work, and not always just pushed every session, and they've taken the hard, and they've stuck to the plan with a little, and it takes some discipline and some ego calming to do that. But once they experience, they're like, oh, I get it, and they've had a great race, and it's a breakthrough race because they've learned that. And I think nutrition is similar. It's like
Mm-hmm.
just learning to trust
Yeah.
what you know and what you're being told
Yeah.
by someone with credentials, but not always just what's in the media. I think
Right.
really helps.
Yeah, I think that is really important. And so, let's see, kind of going off my notes here, I
Yeah.
had, what were some of the things like you noticed when you changed your nutrition? Did you notice changes in, kind of talked about menstrual cycle, but like
Mhm.
recovery? Was there physical, mental?
Yeah, so I think definitely. I mean, the last couple of years, we've had some big races and some big training, and it's been pretty full on. And I think I've definitely, you know, I had surgery earlier this year, but apart from that, we had our, injuries were pretty limited over the last couple of years, which allowed us to perform at the level we needed to, which I'd always struggled with over the years. Definitely just, I think, I didn't have my period, and my body was pretty stressed out, I think, and I'm able to mentally push through anything, but my body would break. And I think it held up a lot better over the last 2 years, and it allowed me to back to back perform where we've missed that in previous years. We've been able to get to the top, and then I wouldn't recover, or I'd get injured, and then we'd have to restart again. And I think definitely the nutrition helped allow me to back up and get to that next level over the last 2 years, which was great. I mean, and we were able to do some cool stuff. So
Awesome.
that, and then the menstrual cycle. Yeah, I used to have, well, I had amenorrheic for 10 years, but then we got it back, but it was very irregular
Mm-hmm.
and all over the place. And so that started to get more regular.
Mm-hmm.
And also, I didn't struggle with it quite as much. I think learning how to manage nutrition around the menstrual cycle helped. And that was huge because a couple of my races were right on that point. And
Right.
so had that been prior, I think I would have probably, it would have been really hard for me, but learning
Yeah.
how to manage it before that really helped. And leading up to my period as well was always hard. And so
Yeah.
nutrition there was a huge help. And then we worked on sleep, nutrition. And I think just in general, my body was less stressed,
Mm-hmm.
and less stress equals less injuries and
Yeah.
better recovery. And you don't really realize that it's stressed until you change things, and oh, this is how it's supposed to feel,
Yeah.
right? Like, and just like not concrete legs
Right.
every day, and
Yes.
just like muscling through everything. And
Mm-hmm.
so I think, so definitely felt like I could back up training, very well over the last 2 years. So
Yeah.
it was good as well.
Awesome. That is fantastic. And yeah, that is one of the things too, like with the whole menstrual cycle stuff, I think a lot of people aren't aware of is how you can adjust your nutrition and your hydration depending on where you are in your cycle and your training too.
Right.
And do you program your own training, or do you have
No, I have a coach. I have a coach
okay.
as well.
Yeah.
I'm good at giving directions to other people. I still don't trust myself with myself sometimes.
Right.
So we're always good, and we
Yes.
always know. And I think that's why it's important, even if you're good at, nutrition, or you
Right.
know what you need to do. I mean, I studied exercise science for 4 years. I know the things, but and you can educate others, but doing it for yourself is a whole new thing. And
Yeah.
just having someone, and even if you think you know everything about triathlon and nutrition and everything, it's always good to have someone to oversee that. And because you might be going in a direction that is not ideal, and it's really hard for you to see that. Same with training.
Right.
Having that coach or that nutritionist can really help guide you when you think you're a rock star, and actually pull you back in and say, hey, we need to go this way or this
Yeah.
way, right?
Totally.
So I think having that second set of eyes in all areas is important.
Yeah.
So yeah, I actually have a coach that
Yeah.
plans my training.
Perfect. Yeah. And for those of you guys watching and listening, Flick is a busy lady. She not only trains for herself, but she teaches a lot of classes. She has her tri clients. So she is on the go all day, 7 days a week, pretty much. So, so we had to accommodate for that as well in your nutrition. It wasn't just kind of the standard triathlete, training schedule, and then maybe you get to go home and rest. You were up doing a lot of other stuff. So there was a lot of extra calories we had to pile in you to kind of support all those other life demands too, right? So I think that was a challenge, multiple sessions throughout the course of the day. I think sometimes you were doing 3, I don't know if there's 4.
4:30 to 11 p.m. days.
Busy.
But I think that's, I think that's quite common in type A triathletes, right? I think if it's more common here too. I feel like Bay Area is very busy, and we don't really notice it, but then you step back and look at, you put that to your nutritionist or your coach and like, holy hell, or whatever. But I think, it's pretty common in a lot of driven people to be busy. Not that we have to be always, but I feel like we tend to have that lifestyle. And so working, you don't really realize till you sit down and have a look at it, and how much we're missing out on good nutrition through that. So
keep the body moving. So kind of with the current situation, depending on when the viewers are viewing we're doing this on April 4th, and we are deep in the shelter in place COVID situation. So obviously we are Zoom interviewing, but also I wanted to tune in with Flick and see kind of how this situation has kind of affected you kind of mentally with your training, all that stuff. And then maybe we can dive into too, like how that's affected your clients that you're coaching and like their goals.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, this is impacting everyone. I mean, it's hard on everyone at the moment. And so I think as athletes, we're exposed to adversity quite a bit, right? And we learn how to deal with non-ideal situations. And when things go wrong, we have to adapt and adjust and push on. And I think if you've done competitive sports at a high level for a long time, you're used to, failure. You're used to, things not going your way, and how to adapt and adjust to that. So I think as an athlete myself, I feel it's just like one of those Ironmans that didn't go your way, and you have to just get to the finish any way you can. So, using all those tools that would do that into your everyday life, I think is really important right now. And I think those who have been exposed to, like myself, multiple injuries or whatever, have that accepting what's happening and how do we move forward from here. And that goes for all aspects of life. You should be able to do that. And so really tuning into, what you can do opposed to what you can't do, keeping that positive mind. And I think for me, I tell my athletes, we should be, the main goal should be to be the best athlete you can be. If you're just focused on that one race and something goes wrong, I mean, that's all your eggs in the basket. And also, I think, you're going to be your best and you're going to stay motivated in the off season, in every day of the year, if you just focus on being the best athlete that you can be. And you can wake up every day with that goal. You don't have to have a race on the calendar. You don't have to have, a set thing. It's just,
Right.
if you're driven to be your best athlete you can be, you don't lose motivation, is my theory. A lot of people
Yeah.
need races for motivation, but if
Mm-hmm.
you change that mindset a little tiny bit
Mm-hmm.
to, wanting to be the best you can be, and
Yeah.
then the races, once you get to the races, you're at the best level you can
Yeah.
be. So I think just a little change in that, focusing on really, waking up every day determined and motivated to, just be your best self,
Yeah.
can really help in a situation like this. The fact that there are no races doesn't change my motivation
Yeah.
or anything like that. I think, but I've had that mindset for quite a while,
Mm-hmm.
and pretty mentally strong, but just trying to, encourage my athletes to think a bit more along those lines. This is a great opportunity to work on your weaknesses, work on
Mm-hmm.
strength, work on, everything possible that we can do, not what we can't do, and
Yeah.
just trying to get that mindset around that.
Yeah. So do you feel like with the training that you're programming for your athletes, is it almost as if you're going back into like almost off-season style training, like winter, or how is that?
Yeah. I mean, I think we've had to adjust a lot. Although some of my athletes have more time without, commutes, and they have,
Yeah.
at home. We've gone to a lot of virtual training just to keep
Cool.
people connected,
Yeah.
and I think that's really important right now, is
Yes.
the connection and the teamwork, and even if it's just mates, just checking in, keeping each other motivated. More so than ever, I think it's really important to step up with that right now.
Yeah.
And yeah, so we've gone to a lot more virtual, and a lot of strength based. I mean, anyone
Yeah.
can do strength at home, and it's been great. I mean, a lot of people that never have time for strength, now we don't have swimming
Yeah.
and whatnot, and those long rides if people are worried about going outside and
Mm-hmm.
whatnot. So the training volume has kind of come back a little bit. So it has freed up some space for a lot of strength work, which a lot of triathletes really don't allow the time for. And
Mm-hmm.
it's been great for my guys to get in a routine with strength regularly. And I think it's really going to help them set up for a successful year, and just doing things that they don't usually do, or have time for,
Right.
is focusing on those now that we can't swim a million miles and ride a million miles and whatnot. So
Yeah.
that's been great. We've kept a little bit of spice in the indoor trainer sessions, if ever you see the comments.
Yeah.
So I think it's important to keep a little bit of fire. I mean, if we're
Yeah.
just, I think not too much, obviously we don't want to overstress the system, but
Mm-hmm.
we're not doing huge amounts of volume either,
Yeah.
right? So I think it's safe to add a little bit of high end in there, just to keep
Mm-hmm.
in touch with it.
Yeah.
There's some virtual racing going on and everything. I'm not too keen on my guys doing tons and tons of Swift
Mm-hmm.
races and stuff. I think
Mm-hmm.
a lot of people are going to burn out by doing
Yeah.
too many of those. We're
Yeah.
very competitive, and do too many of those now with races not
Mm-hmm.
in the near future, I think
Mm-hmm.
people are going to crash and burn pretty quick. So
Yeah.
a little bit of spice definitely on our weekly shorter rides,
Yeah.
but just keeping a nice balance. And I think that, without the volume, that's okay, and that keeps things, they get pumped, and keeps the
Right.
motivation high, and actually feels like they accomplished something, and the strength is really paying off as well, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's kind of a big piece too right now, with kind of the stress that's whether you say you're stressed or not from the whole kind of COVID situation, or working from home and taking care of your kids and homeschooling them and all that stuff and
It's
juggling it.
huge.
Yeah. Is that managing that stress and being able to do things like trainer rides, or if you have a treadmill at home, and hitting those high bursts of intensity actually helps kind of metabolize some of those
Hmm.
fight or flight hormones. But you're right, it's a kind of a good balance where we don't want to drive too high.
Hmm.
We don't want to drive the stress up too high, higher than it already is, right,
Right.
globally. But being able to metabolize those stress hormones is important, and getting into those high intensities can help do that. So that's awesome.
Yeah, and I think especially coming off base phase, like everyone's just put in that big base phase, ready for race season,
Yeah.
and put in another base phase, and people are gonna, it's important to keep them mentally motivated as well,
Yeah.
and so just throwing in a little bit of spice can just be enough to keep them hungry
Yeah.
and loving it.
Awesome. And did you have any races on the calendar for this year that have changed, or what was your kind of
Yeah, well, we're
20
still to
schedule?
see.
Yeah.
I had Honu scheduled, but obviously I had shoulder surgery, so that one was off the books anyway. But to my advantage, it's moved to August now.
Yeah.
So, and it's going to be very hot, and it's my
Uh,
favorite. So
yes.
that could be a blessing in disguise.
Yes.
But that's just a personal experience. But so it's still to see. I mean, I have the Netherlands for the ITU World Championships scheduled for September. Luckily, the half Ironman World Championships and the ITU World Championships this year were already pushed back. Instead of May
Yeah.
and September. They're now in September and November. So you know, it's going to be interesting. I don't think we can make a call on those yet. So training as if they're going to happen, well, is the mindset.
Right.
So
Yes.
hoping they will happen. So nothing is affecting me too much just due to the surgery. We knew I'd be out for a little minute, so kind of good timing with that. But yeah, hoping that they go ahead, the international races. So Netherlands in September, then the World Cycling Time Trial in October, and then New Zealand in World Championships for 70.3 in November. So September, October, November, if all goes well, it'll be an exciting second half of the year. But I think it's a little too early to know. But you got to plan as if it's going to happen. So just in case.
Yes. And will you be doing any virtual races, do you think?
Oh, that's a good question. I mean, some came over to me. I'm a bit skeptical on how they're going to monitor that.
Right.
It's a competitive bunch of people, and I'm not sure how they're going to monitor how accurate some of it is. But I'm not a pro at that, so I'm not sure. But I say no, but I might get a little antsy. And if I do one, it could be dangerous. I might jump into more. So, so we'll see. I'm not onto that yet. I'm still building back. So I don't want to do anything stupid. So I'm trying to stay away from it. Because I will get competitive for sure.
That's smart.
So I'm not tempting myself in anything like that. But not to say that I would not go there. I just it's just I don't know how they're going to monitor it, but yeah, I think they have to. People are trying, and people are trying to make it work, and good for them. If they can pull it off and they can do a good job of it, and it keeps people motivated, then good for them. You know, let's do it.
And let's see. So I had a couple questions from my IG stories that I posted. So now with a lot more training inside, how has this affected do you have a fan setup? How has this affected your kind of hydration inside versus what you would bring with you maybe on the bike when you go out?
Well, I think it's kind of a little bit twofold. I mean, the good thing about indoor training is access to hydration and nutrition, right? You're there, you basically got no worry about wind, traffic, anything like that. So you can really focus on getting a lot of hydration and nutrition in. So I think the access to it and the mental of being able to focus on it is a lot easier than outside, because outside you're thinking about a lot of things at once. And so, and definitely on the trainer, I feel like I go through a lot more hydration than outside, just because I'm a sweater. I sweat a lot. An efficient cooling system, I call it. So I need to replace a lot. And so, so on the trainer, I mean, I'll definitely go through a lot more hydration than I would outside. I think you're just in that, you're not really cooling yourself with the outside weather as well. And you work, a 2-hour trainer session is like a 3-hour outdoor ride. And so I think definitely hydrating a lot on that. And nutrition as well, depending on the sets, but I'm finding less sets, not quite as much nutrition as like you're doing a 100-mile ride or whatnot, but definitely the hydration up. Otherwise, later in the day, you're finding yourself pretty fatigued or tired. I find the first thing I know is if I didn't have enough hydration on the bike. That's when
Right.
I'm like fatigued at like 2 o'clock. You find afterwards, you're
Yeah.
fine for a while, and then that afternoon comes and you're just like, oh my God, like
Yeah.
what's wrong with me? And
Yeah.
but just keeping up the electrolytes and the hydration can really help energy levels through the day, I think.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that would make sense too. I mean, when you're on the trainer, you're not coasting. You're not allowed to coast like you would on an outdoor bike. You're not riding just down any hills for fun and catching the wind and stuff. And that wind piece, the pulling that sweat off of your body and the heat off your body is kind of one of the big ways it helps cool you. So with with less wind inside, more sweat piling up basically on the surface of your skin, you might notice more sweat when you're training indoors than you would obviously outdoors. On the surface of your skin kind of forces you to sweat a little bit more because we're not cooling ourselves with the wind and getting that extra kind of effect there. So yeah, higher sweat probably indoors, and which means higher hydration, but also could be a good time too to help practice with the hydration and the fueling components too,
Yeah,
just
perfect.
with the gut sense of it, and kind of practicing those levels there. So that's a really good tool, and to kind of keep that up.
Yeah, and I think, just keeping check of, weight after long training rides. I mean, definitely if you're down a few pounds, it's probably hydration or
Right.
just water weight, right? So
Yeah.
trying to keep replenishing that is
Mm-hmm.
really, really huge.
Yeah. Yeah. And you can get away with it for a little bit, like you're saying, a couple hours after, because those fight or flight hormones are up from your training. And then the kind of once those kind of taper off and your body starts to realize, oh my gosh, I'm pretty severely dehydrated, the
Yeah.
energies and the focus and all of that stuff kind of start to tank. So
And I definitely encourage my newer athletes that are newer to triathlete to definitely practice just hydrating more on the bike, even just grabbing your bottle and drinking like more frequently. A lot of times newer triathletes outside are a little bit hesitant, they're still learning the skills
right.
and whatnot, to drink as much, they're so focused on their cycling, but, just practicing on the trainer alone, and getting in the habit of, every so often, drinking it's going to pay off when you get back outside, because you'll be used to grabbing your bottle and that going for the drink all the time. Like people will come back with full bottles and you're like, what? So just like getting them to practice right now is
Yeah.
great.
Awesome. And then let's see, the other question we had was kind of, I think we kind of already covered it, but kind of how has the training changed with kind of the COVID situation stuff going on? And are you doing kind of more either slow, steady state or more high intensity? And so it sounds like you're doing a little bit of both, but more strength
Yeah.
specifically too. And
Yeah, so definitely strength. I think, without the swimming, I think the strength component will really help swimming when we get back. I'm not a huge fan of doing hours and hours of swim cords. I think we're going to see people with some busted shoulders after this. I think some swim cords, my guys are doing about half an hour, like max with those. And then the rest is a lot of core work and back work and lats and, proper strength work. It's just, if you have slightly bad form on those swim cords, you're going to end up with some issues later on. And so I think definitely do them. I think they're important, but definitely don't overdo them for sure. Get into the strength work, get your core strong, get your back strong. And rotational stuff will really help swimming, opposed to hours and hours of cords. I know we all want to swim. I know we all want to get back in the water, but reality is it's not quite there yet. So, so definitely the strength work for swimming and a small amount of cords. And then, we've kept a lot of form focused and aerobic training happening, but we will still hit some top high end just to keep in touch with the neuro system, with the high end, so that we're not starting from scratch when we get back. And I think as much for motivation right now as a training point of view, but definitely nothing too deep, because of course we want to stay healthy through this time as well. I mean, so if we compromise the immune system, we're going to be a little bit more skeptical to get sick with this thing, and the whole idea is to come out healthy at the end of this. So just trying to be mindful of that, which is a little bit newer for me. I really trying to look out for the athletes not to get sick, so trying to keep their immune system up with obviously that gets suppressed with long, hard training. But I feel like because the volume's down, we've been able to do a little bit more strength work on the bike and the run, and a little bit more intensity. It would be different if we're doing a lot of volume as well right now, but it's not that way.
Yeah. Awesome. That all sounds great. And so, let's see, are you taking on any more coaching clients or?
Yeah, definitely. Now that I've got a bit more time, no more 100-mile rides right now.
Right.
No, definitely taking on a few more. We have quite a big team now, but it's definitely my second year of only coaching. So it's full time now. So definitely loving it and loving the one-on-one stuff, as you probably do. It's great to be on the journey with the athletes and part of it. So definitely loving every part of coaching. So I'll probably take on a couple more this year if it comes my way, but definitely just growing organically and make sure it works for both the client and myself. But definitely, if anyone was interested, for sure, shoot me a note, or any questions on training or how nutrition's helped. I'm definitely always open to shoot me a note or on Facebook or Instagram or email or anything. Always love chatting.
Tag your stuff in the notes or whatever below that we'll put afterwards.
I could talk shop all day.
Yeah. Awesome. And then what would kind of be your kind of sign off suggestions for people right now with kind of the race season up in the air and kind of staying motivated? What would kind of be your...
I think you just got to keep on keeping on and really keep in touch with, when that day happens. I think you have to just keep thinking about how great it's going to be when you hit that start line and how ready you will be, and just keep that little bit of spark of, what might be possible at the end of this year or when things do get back. And I think that little bit of what is possible later on the track can just keep the goosebumps. It can keep you, motivated on the trainer. It can keep you driven. You just have to look at the pros right now. They're not taking a break. They're not less motivated. They're more motivated than ever. So when races come back, they're going to be, like bulls out of a gate. And I think just keep that. Imagine how fit you're going to be by the time, if you take the opportunity now to work on your weaknesses. Just keep excited about what might be sooner. It's going to come sooner or later. So just keep waking up, with that visioning, starting your next race. And I think with that in mind, you'll find what you need out there.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys for tuning in. That was Flick for you. And hopefully we'll have more fun stuff to share with you guys in the future.
See you later.
Bye, Flick.